and welcome to the first ever episode of the Grown Ups Table podcast. I'm your host, Philip Schmidt, and today's episode is about attitude. Because this is the first episode of this podcast, I want to give a brief explanation of my goals here. This is my junior and senior project. My goal is to interview several men who I believe exemplify one of these attributes in their lives: attitude, commitment, energy, excellence, family values, integrity, peace, priorities, and relationships. The first of these being attitude. Now, when I was planning this whole project out and I had my list of traits and I was thinking about who to interview for each trait, I saw the word attitude, and I immediately knew who to interview, and that is Mr. Jeremy Brown. So here's how that interview went. All right, so why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Jeremy. I grew up in Vermont, moved down to Georgia probably 8 or 9 years ago. But yeah, Vermont born and bred, me and my wife. We lived in Connecticut for a couple of years and then came down here. Went to school in Vermont for college. I'm a civil engineer, so I design high voltage transmission lines, 3 kids, and yeah, been here, I guess, for 8 or 9 years.
So attitude has often been called the most important factor in a successful operation. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think a lot of things can stem from the attitude. So if you have a poor attitude, then I think that can really seep down to everybody else. And likewise, I think if you have a good attitude, then that can help other people as well. But yeah, attitude is one of those things that we have full control over 100% of the time. So that's something that us having that ability, I think, really has a big impact on, the success of something.
Mm-hmm. Would you say there's ever like a benefit to having a negative attitude towards what's going on?
Not that I can think of. I don't see any situation where a negative attitude would be beneficial to either the person with the bad attitude or the recipient. I just don't see any value in that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, then how would you approach someone who has a negative attitude or just like a negative situation in general?
I think I would hopefully I would approach them the same way we would approach anybody with a good attitude, to be honest with you. Regardless of the environment or the situation, I think that we are, again, always in control of our attitudes. And so their attitude should have no impact on the way we behave, is what I would like to think.
So can you share a time with me when you consciously changed your attitude in a challenge, and how could that have shifted the outcome of that opportunity?
The hardest time for our attitudes, I think, is when we deal with something either unexpected or something negative. And so in some of the challenges we've had with my youngest's health several years ago would make you question certain things of, why is this happening? Why me? Why him? What's the benefit of any of this? And kind of the attitude that you can develop would be something of a negative attitude and really questioning God, I would say. But the more you kind of step back from the situation to see what other things could come from it, hopefully that would point you into having a positive response instead, where you can develop that trust in God, even though things may seem bleak at the time. But yeah, that'd be one occasion I can think of where attitude had to be adjusted to have the right perspective.
And you mentioned trusting God, having faith in God. How do you think your faith helps you keeping a positive attitude?
I think that helps in every situation, to be honest with you. I think that if you have the right perspective and understanding of who God is and what He wants for every person, then I think that can only help you have a better understanding of the control that I should have in my life and the attitude that I ought to reflect with the thankfulness and trust that I have, knowing God's going to continue to take care of me.
What practices or habits help you maintain a positive attitude then?
I think the best way to maintain a positive attitude is to really take a step back from any situation that you're actively in so that you can get a better perspective of what you're dealing with. I think a lot of people can lose their composure or have a poor attitude when they're in the details of whatever it is that they're currently knee-deep in. But when you take a step back and get it in its own perspective in life, then I think that can only help, because then we can actually examine what's going on and realize, oh, it's probably not a big deal.
So you're saying the way we approach our life, do you think that can shape the way life responds to us?
Yeah, I think, and I don't know if I would say how life responds to me as much as I might just say how we can handle whatever's thrown at us, maybe. But yeah, if we have the right attitude in the way that we're approaching everything, then I do believe that no matter what comes up, whether it be good or bad, we should be able to respond with the proper attitude because we've already gone into it with the right headspace anyway.
All right, so changing course, what do you think distinguishes people with a positive attitude from those who might struggle with their mindset? Like I'll be real here. Whenever I see you walk into a room, you're smiling. I don't think I've ever seen you not smile. That has an impact. Like I see you walk in and it's like he right here has a good attitude. He's happy here, even if it's someplace you don't want to be. So what other than just a smile do you think distinguishes people with a positive attitude?
I think having just a thankful heart for what everybody's kind of going through helps a ton. So for me, I know that I am thankful a lot of the times, at least when I'm thinking about it, to recognize the different positions or environments that I'm in the different company that I have especially. I do get excited to see people. I do enjoy everybody here at church and everything, for example. I'm very interested in knowing how everybody is actually doing, because just like them, I'm having my normal everyday walk in life as well. So a time like going to worship or something like that, where I can go ahead and see people and get caught up with them is a great blessing, I think. So that gives me great encouragement.
Mhm. So you're talking about being with people and enjoying being with people, but sometimes that can get a little frustrating, at least in my experience, with like school projects, maybe with other people, and then other people are flaking out or they're not doing your part. Do you think that we need to rely on others to achieve success, or could we do it simply on our own by changing our attitude?
I think that we can maintain a good attitude regardless of the other folks' impact, but I do think that others can help encourage our attitude. So I don't think I would call it a reliance on them. I would say instead that we are the first ones to be in control of our attitude and kind of how we handle things, respond to things, handle different situations, difficult situations. But then having a good relationship with other people can, I think, influence that for the better.
Can you think of a situation where a positive attitude turned a potential failure into a success?
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to what you're saying with different school projects. I remember in college, we definitely had different projects where you're assigned a team and you got to get everything pulled together, presentation and everything, and the data collection, all of that. So, yeah, when things don't work together because everybody has their own agenda, their own way they would prefer to do it, things of that nature, then there's definitely some discord among the group, which can only cause to have challenges and poor attitudes as you'd expect. But when everybody can finally take a step back and recognize we all have the same goal in mind, we're all trying to reach that goal in the same time that everybody has, then I think that helped so that everybody can really understand each other's perspective of things to try to be helpful instead of trying to take ownership and do it their own way.
All right, so finally here, what advice would you give someone who's struggling with their attitude?
For anybody that's struggling with their attitude, my advice is always the first thing is just to take a step back. Usually, whenever I see somebody that has a poor attitude, it's always in the middle of something that they are super focused on that's maybe not going right or maybe didn't go the way they expected, whatever it is. If they just take a step back first, then I do think that they're able to get that put into its right perspective and right placement as far as what's important in life, and then they can take a breath and actually recognize it's not the end of the world like they thought it was a minute ago.
So now we're going to move on to some application and just takeaways. So one thing, you said it more than once, to take a step back. I think that's really good advice. Count to three. I've heard that before. I really like that idea of just when things aren't going well, you step back for a minute and you just reassess. I think that's a good one. Are there any other takeaways you would give me?
Yeah, I think the growth that you can see with somebody's attitude is, first of all, right, if you got a bad attitude, take a step back, fix it. Okay, great. But then can we get to the point where we don't even develop that bad attitude to begin with? So yeah, I think the more we can kind of keep that distance back away from whatever the situation might be to just begin with, I think will only help our attitude with everything that we encounter in life. That is a great area of growth that a lot of people, myself included, can continue to work on so that they don't develop or have this habitual issue of having a bad attitude.
All right. All right, so now I'm going to ask you some questions. Some of them are silly, some of them are a little more meaningful. This is the rapid fire segment. So we'll start off simple. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning, 100%.
Mm-hmm. All right, and what's your favorite book or podcast?
I can't say I listen to many podcasts, although there's a radio show I listen to religiously. It's out of Nashville. It's a country radio station, but the Bobby Bones Show. So I've been listening to that for a long time.
All right. Can you recommend me some new music?
Probably not. I'm trying to think here if there's anything that's new that was amazing that I've heard recently, but new music is hard for me to grab onto, to be honest. A lot of the stuff these days, it's good. I listen to some stuff, but I do try to listen to a lot of variety as well. So I go from country to pop to whatever. So
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, nobody specific, but yeah.
All right. Let's go. What's one thing you wish you had some more time for?
More time to just hang out with the family. We do that, but I would love to do it more.
Yeah, no, family time is pretty great. We actually have an episode about that coming up. If you could change one thing about the world, what would it be?
The one thing I would change, I guess, in a practical manner, would just be for people to just be kind. I think there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that are, for whatever reason, just don't want to extend this kind card, and it's just not necessary. If people would just be nice, I think would be super helpful.
Yeah, all right. So going back a little bit into your life, you were a 17-year-old once as well, and I'm there now, and I'm just wondering, what's something you would give yourself, a piece of advice you would give yourself back when you were 17?
Probably advice that every boy needs to hear over and over again is just to think about what you're doing before you do it.
Yeah, all right. That's a good one. Now, do you like football?
Yeah.
Yeah, you watch college football or?
I don't. I grew up in the north, so college football doesn't exist up there.
Right. You know, yeah. Well, what team are you a fan of?
Patriots. Everything Boston.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's disgusting.
I know.
Dolphins. Dolphins. Yeah. It's. What would your dream job be?
Dream job at one point in time would have been to be a musician, because I thought that would be just super fun to do something like that we enjoy and to do it whenever I wanted. That kind of is very appealing. But then besides that, I don't really have much now. Now it would just be more of a, hey, as long as we have everything we need. I think a fun job would be something like working at a Home Depot or Lowe's or something, just to go help people and just doing stuff that I kind of enjoy.
Yeah, I'm working at a hardware store myself right now, and I know what you mean. It's fun. It's fun helping people. People come in all the time. They're like, I need a thingamajigger for whatchamacallit, and I just need some help. It's fun. You find little doodads for them.
It's great.
So, you watch TV?
Yeah.
Yeah. Out of the three, I don't know if you've watched any of them, honestly, but Friends, Seinfeld, or The Office?
Yeah, I mean, the right answer is probably The Office, but I probably would say Friends.
Really?
I'll be honest.
Really?
Yeah, only because I got 3 older sisters, and so Friends was on a lot more than any of the other shows. So I think that kind of just, I grew up with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I grew up with The Office. I've watched like maybe one episode of Friends just because it was on.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I can't diss it if I've never seen it. So yeah, I'll respect your opinion. Yeah. And lastly, what's your morning and bedtime routine?
Bedtime, I don't know, maybe around 11 or so. We usually do spend a little bit of time with the older kids and my wife for the last bit of the evening, and then go to bed. And then I'm up, probably 6 o'clock or so. And then, just kind of hitting it, whether it be a quick study or a quick workout or a quick whatever, and then just hitting work. So, yeah.
All right. Well, Mr. Jeremy, I've really enjoyed having you on here. I feel like it's been a pretty great conversation. And that concludes this episode. Thank you all for listening, and tune in next time on February 14th for our next episode about commitment. I've been Philip Schmidt, and this was The Grown Ups Table.